We are live. Let me see if I put you over here if it's better. We'll see. This is the first one. Oh my gosh, Shannon's here. Okay, so that's a good start. At least we have Shannon. All right, let's see. I I think that works. This is the most casual live ever because I hurt myself right before this. Oh my gosh. Hi, Beth. You've had it pulled the tab up for an hour. That is so cute. Thank you. This is a fun one because it's not like TikTok where there's, so many people. It's like just the dust bunnies. And we get to hang out and just chat and see what's up. So I think it's going to be like less than 50 of us, truly. I think it'll be like a short thing. And that's the point. It's supposed to just like be a time for us to hang out, ask questions. I'm going to give you guys some of the news from today and we can see what you have to say. But like, be active in the chat. Shannon, our moderator friend, is here. Hey, Amy. So let's see. We've got 26. I think we're waiting. I think it's like 50 or so. It's a small little baby group of dust bunnies. I wish I could see everybody that's here. Shannon, Jackie, I can see you if you like make a comment. So make a comment and we'll go from there. Hi, Anne. Hi, Kiki. Hi, Dino. Dino or Dino? Dino Jeff, it looks like. Chat finally loaded. There's a 3-second delay on the chat in case anybody swears or says something terrible. Shannon can catch it, hopefully. We're just hanging. Swift's mom. Hey, Chris. Yeah, it is cool. That's what I'm excited for. I'm excited to just like be able to chill and like chat with y'all and see what you guys are interested in and what you're thinking about different stuff. Hey, Buffalo. Go Bills. So the funny thing though, like I've been looking forward to this and I have this unfortunate thing that my body does where like if I get stressed, sometimes my muscles will tense up. And it'll cause like an injury, which is so cute and so fun. And so earlier today, I just was trying to like get everything ready for all this other stuff that I have going on. And I like literally pulled the muscle in my neck and I was like, I will not be missing the first live. So we've got heat patches and a sweatshirt on, but future lives, it'll be lights, camera, action. Oh, wow, from Canada. Hi, friend. And for my injury, this was very enjoyable to get in the mail today. It was sent anonymously, but somebody made it. It says thoughts and prayers, and then it says policy and change. And somebody made it for me, which I think is so nice. And I got another one that looks like this, and it's laser printed good news only. Good evening, Steve. What's happening? So this is our first one. So we're all kind of getting to know each other. It's going to be a small group, like probably less than 50, which is great. And I wanted it to be that way so that I could actually answer your questions and like we could talk about some opinions and different stuff. And just kind of like try to get a pulse on what we care about, what we want to learn more about, and then just like generally be able to hang out. Hey, Annette, more than like with TikTok where I have to like start over every 5 minutes because people are like coming in and out. So we'll hang out for about an hour. I'll answer questions for as long as we have them, and then we'll go from there. If y'all saw the newsletter today, the Good News newsletter, I'm going to start with that. We now, because of the Patreon, because we can fund this stuff now, the banana pint glass, I love that. Because of the Patreon and because of your guys' support, we're able to like hire some folks who have been doing like volunteer work for a really long time and just trying to like make this work. Hey, Jonathan. Hi, Tina. Um, and so like Shannon's on the team now fully as the moderator and has been with me for years and years and years and is a great pal that I appreciate. That's Shan there. She moderates the Discord channel as well. She's the best in the whole world. I literally like could not do this without her. And she keeps us all safe. And then we have Lauren, who is my manager. She's the manager, she's the lawyer, she's the accountant, she's the booking agent. She is also like an emotional support animal. Lauren is awesome. And then we have Mia, who is my very, very good friend from high school who went to school for English. Her dad ran the theater department in our high school. And when I was going to high school, I used to do the summer musicals. And the high school that I went to was Derby High School in Derby, Connecticut, for anybody who knows the Valley. And the year I was going to graduate, Derby was at risk of losing their accreditation as a school. Like, they weren't they weren't learning us anything. And there was maybe, I think there was maybe like 54 kids in my class or 70, something like that. It was very, very small class. Um, and they were going to lose their accreditation, which meant that I wouldn't have been able to get in college. And so Mia's dad, Gary, was the head of the theater department over there, and he like worked it out. I had to divorce my parents and become like a medical ward of my grandmother to be able to go live in a different town, like live in a different town, so that I could go to a school that was accredited, which was crazy. So when I see all this stuff about them trying to like defund public education, or they're trying to like they're trying to use essentially the circumstance that happened to me, which is very rare, as like this widespread issue for why parents need school choice. But school choice, in the context that they're talking about it, is not trying to like better the academic opportunities for people who have like a special skill in something. They're doing it because they're trying to destroy public education, and it's super dangerous. This idea that parents should have school choice leads to more segregation, less diversity, overcrowded schools, and under-resourced schools in other places. And like anything that used to be a government thing and is now being taken over by a private enterprise, it'll be nice for the first year or two, and then those budget cuts are going to hit, because if folks who are trying to advocate for school choice are essentially trying to make everything a charter school or a private school, that's like when they privatize the prison system. Those systems need to make money for the shareholder. So there's, the teachers aren't going to see that money. The investment in students isn't going to be there. It's going to be going to shareholders of the institution. And that's really not great. Public education, the postal system, things like that are really tenets of American democracy and are super important. And so that's why I get like a little bit sassy when people are like, well, shouldn't my kid be able to go to the best school? They absolutely should, but not at the risk of the rest of the children of the nation like falling off, And we're already so tight, so tight. Yeah. So you guys want to hear? So that's the story of the team and how I met Mia and why I'm so close to Mia's family. And they're just lovely people. I don't know. Maybe we'll have more friends from high school. I'm this way. We're like, if we're friends, I'm friends with you forever and ever and ever, or I'm straight up not friends with you. I don't have like acquaintances like middle of the road folks. I have like 4 friends, and then that's like it. And 3 of them are on this team. So that's how it works, right? Oh, hi, Kristen. How are you? So here is the story of how I became the under the desk. I was working for a food company. I am one of the most expert people on food systems as it relates to food insecurity and produce. And I did that for years and years and years, like a decade. And I was on a meeting and I had CNN in the background. It was like January 2020. It was January 6th, 2020. And I had been making some TikToks because some of my chef friends thought it was really fun. And I was teaching them like how to apply for the PPP loans and how to get the EIDL and how to get shuttered venue and like what we were doing with food and produce and how like the food system was being affected by the pandemic and all that. And I saw them storming the Capitol, and I had worked in the Capitol before, and I was really shocked by like where I was seeing the cameras pick up people and the things they were doing. And so I got under my desk to explain the 25th Amendment to Mike Pence, like fake, like jokey explain it. And it went super viral. And then my friend, I was like, you could be president for 14 days and it doesn't even make you the 46th president. The 25th Amendment just allows you to take over presidential powers to call in the National Guard. And like, it was cute. And I was just under my desk. And then later that night, my friend Randy was like, you better get back under the desk and tell them what's going on now. And then the next day, Randy was like, I think you should just stay under the desk and tell people the news. It's so comforting. And so then I did Biden's 100 days. I did the Afghanistan pullout. I did the war in Ukraine. I've done everything. It's been 3 years now under the desk. So, but that's how it started. It started as like a way to cope with the absurdity that I was seeing. And then I really did find this place was needed for gentle news and for someone to just kind of like tell you what was going on without trying to scare you. And I was good at that. And so I for folks who are like, oh, did you know you want to be a content creator? No, I'm 41 years old. I did not know that this job existed until I had it. And so I had no idea. I just loved making the videos. It was the pandemic time. It was a great way to connect. I immediately made a bunch of friends on TikTok that I really cared about. Like, I don't make a lot of friends. So I had all these TikTok friends and people I cared about talking to. And um, even when my videos would get like 100 views or 300 views, I've done them. You could go back to the beginning and you'll see it's always been exactly the same because I just loved doing it. And it was really, sometimes it's really just helpful for me to hear out loud myself process what's going on. And so that's why we do it. And folks are like, is this a character or is this really you? Did you go to school for political science or did you go to J school, like journalism school? I'm like, no, I didn't do any of that. I went to school for theater and then I went to business school after that. It does not hurt my back. It's actually quite comfortable. And I think I'm just like a floor person. I've always been a sit on the floor person. Like if the option is to sit on the floor, then I will choose that. Do we have any other questions before I start getting into what I'm looking at right now? I also have dyslexia. I don't know if y'all know that. I've talked about it, not a ton. Um, but I also think that that helps because I don't have the like mental capability to see things for like in between the lines or whatever. I'm just like this. I just need you to tell me what it is because I can't be like thinking about all this, like too many options or whatever. So I'm just like, okay, what did they say? What did they do? That's what it is. That's it. And I think that's been really, really helpful. The floor is where the dogs are. Absolutely. I'm a floor person and grounded. I'm very lucky, I think, to have a social media career not in my 20s because I think the kids struggle, man. The kids have a hard time. I can't imagine, like, I've seen Griffin Maxwell Brooks, who I love, talk about how hard it is to date for him because people don't want to get involved with an influencer or they're afraid that, like, their whole life is going to be chronicled or they're going to get put on blast if they break up. Um, and I feel that, and I'm very happily married and joyful, and I like to like come out and do our stuff, and then the other kind of fun joke is that I go to bed at 9:30. I'm like I'm done, and if I'm at events, I only stay till 11:30. You will not catch me at 11:31 anywhere, and I don't drink when I go to events either. And I think those are all like cool things to like maybe live by if you're going to be a creator because nothing good happens after midnight. Drinking at events is, as my mother would say, ugly on your face. It's not going to photograph well. Nobody wants to see a tipsy under the desk news ever. It's just not like a look for me. And that's it. This is me painted into a historic painting. It was me. It's me, like on Napoleon's horse. We could see it. We're not. Yeah, I'll show you whatever you want to see in the office. We could talk about what books I've got. This is y'all's time. Let's see. See, that's my little face. So my wife had this painted one Christmas a while ago. It's called Nobilify. And unlike some of them, they like actually do paint you in. So it's like, it's like screen printed and then they paint. But the whole thing is like real paint. So whether they screen print it and then paint over or whatever, I'm not sure what they do. But we just thought it was so, so silly and that cracked me up. Yes, Brittany, for calls to action and stuff, let's connect in the Discord and we can start a channel over there to kind of like get in with that stuff. I'm in bed by 9:32. Yes, like I'm in bed watching some QVC. You guys want to see my books? These are some fun presents that Dust Bunnies have given me before. This I got for Christmas. This is a banana lamp, which I don't have in the videos because it's quite phallic, but it's very beautiful. And then this is me and my wife as Barbie dolls. And I have a banana shirt, which I think is so fun. Isn't that so cute? And then Kristen, one of my longtime followers and pals and pen pals, sent me this typewriter right when I first started doing Under the Desk, and it became a prop for the LA Times. It's going to be a prop for the Washington Post as well. I start doing that next week. And guys, I'm not on the Washington Post staff. I won't be on their staff. I'm not trying to do any kind of full-time thing. I'm just helping out while Dave is on maternity or paternity leave because we were at VidCon. So we were at VidCon and I was talking to David. He was saying how excited he was to be a new dad and how worried he was about the channel because he was the Washington Post has like 3 months of paternity leave available for him, and he wanted to be able to take it all. And I was like, I'll do it. I'll like come and help out. And he was like, nah, you would really? And I'm like, yeah, I'll come and help out. I mean, they're paying me, but I'm happy to like help him out and go do a couple TikToks over there. Why not? I love Carmela. Okay, books. This is a book that someone sent me that I haven't read yet. True Crime, Confessions from Behind the Phone. I think it's about like 911 operators. This book I loved. We just had Mary Roach on the podcast, 6 Feet Over, talking about science and the afterlife. This one was fascinating because they talk about how, like in India, like here, when Americans think about reincarnation, we think like maybe I was a Cherokee princess before, right? They think the best possible things. I was probably a king before. In India, there's this phenomenon of families thinking that like the husband reincarnates as the son or the daughter, things like that, so that they stay within the family and continue the cycle of caring for each other. And I learned that in this book, and I loved that idea. I thought that was so fun. Sometimes when I run out of things for good news, I will take a little peek at this book, History of the World Through Body Parts. And it just talks about like all the weird stuff about bodies. And sometimes I come up with like some fun facts. This is a book that is this is a little vulnerable for me. So I bought this one recently because of the dyslexia. I don't have a lot of words, if that makes sense, which I think makes me good at explaining stuff really simply. But sometimes I just say the wrong word. Like I'll say relevation instead of revelation, stuff like that. Like it doesn't work. So I got this so that I could like try to add more words to my vocabulary and try to like learn what words mean, because sometimes the dyslexia makes it hard. I've got another Mary Roach, Grunt. I'll be reading this one before I do my week with the Department of Defense, which I'm going to tell you more about that as soon as we're done looking at these books. Paradise Now is an incredible story about American utopianism. I started it and then I stopped it, but I got to check it out again. This is about like how 5 different times America has tried to create a utopia and how that mirrors what the Christian nationalists are promising you. Smart Brevity. This is the guys at Axios wrote this book about saying more with less. I actually haven't read it at all yet, but I bought it like 2 years ago. I really need to get on it. And then these are just notebooks and gifts and stuff. And that's that. And then we have Miss Vanjie. Somebody drew that for me, which I think is so nice. And then I have my little jovial, I was raised Catholic, and so, I keep the saints around. I don't believe in the Catholics necessarily, but I like, you get to keep what you like. And then we have some of my wife's cello music here. And that's the first part of the bookshelf. We'll do the other sides next time. So we got some stuff to talk about. So yeah, that's it. I have little like comfort items everywhere, like this presidential seal from Joe Biden's office that I was on a sticker for a cookie that he gave me, and I ate the cookie and then I kept the seal. Oof. Bonk is a great book. Stiff is a great book. We also talk about Fuzzies, which is Mary Roach's new book. But yeah. Oh, let's see what Shan's saying over here. Oh, yeah. Got it, Shan. Yeah, so that's just a little bit of tour. Is Trump going to jail? Here's what I do know. I know that there has been extensive effort put into the possibility of Trump going to jail. How would that mechanically be engineered? Like, what would the steps of service, what would the procedure be? What's the procedure? So I know that for the last several years, there has been like extensive research and like structure building that was built around if a president were ever to go to jail, how would that look? And what they've come up with that I've seen, at least last I saw, was a house arrest, that it would actually be, aside from, I don't even know how much worse it would have to be for them to put them in actual jail, or for them, you can lose your Secret Service detail, you can lose your privileges. but we can't incarcerate the Secret Service. And so, how would that work? And then just like the issues of like a carceral building would be very difficult. Just the way that it would be, how would they deal with that in the town that the jail sits in, and the traffic and the potential need to guard the building that he was in and whatnot. And so my understanding is that if there were to be any sort of like prison, it would be it would be like a house, and it won't be Mar-a-Lago, and it won't be in New York. They would pick like a residence that could be guarded, and gated, and that's what it would be. Is like, now I'm not an authority on this. I've just been in rooms where people were talking about what the possibility would look like, and that's the possibility I heard. Now, Fulton County, Georgia, does want to mugshot him, fingerprint him, and because the state of Georgia allows video cameras within their courts, we should be watching this the way that we watched the O.J. Simpson trial, where you see everything from, hopefully not a Broncos chase, but I wouldn't hate it. I mean, that we do need a little bit of drama, something to look forward to, but where you would see him go through the entire process, and I think that that would be, I think that would be interesting. I think it's important to televise it. I think people need to see it happening, and the excuse that some folks are giving that like, oh, if there's a mugshot, they're going to martyr him and he's going to sell it on t-shirts. Like, he does that anyway. He does that anyway. I think whoever you are, you should go through the same process as anyone else. Now, the reason why he's been released to his own recognizance or whatever with conditions is because he is guarded by the United States 24 hours a day because of a Secret Service detail. So he couldn't leave, technically, allegedly. He couldn't flee. So that's why he hasn't been yet. But I would love to see a Bronco chase. I mean, I think give the people what they want, you know? Make it fun. What kind of car do you think Trump drives? Like, Joe Biden drives a Corvette. We all know that, right? And I picture Obama having, like, a Lincoln Town Car or something classy and, like, low profile but nice. But what kind of car would Trump drive? A limo? Yeah. But like, I know he doesn't drive, but if he did drive, what would you see him driving? Remember when he drove the truck and he was like a little child and like so being insane up there, a Pinto? I can't picture him driving a car. This is something I think of every time I drive my car, is that we have to trust the general public for how divided we are as a nation. We all drive cars every day, and that requires a high level of trust, because we have to believe that we and the other people are going to obey the social contract and the laws while operating heavy machinery out there. We do that all the time. And so I feel like, I don't know, I can't picture Trump driving a gold Cadillac or something. Yeah, I could see that, I guess. A gold Cadillac. That'd be funny. I just don't picture him driving. I picture Jimmy Carter driving like the truck, like the old Ford truck, like the orange truck. I can't picture him driving. You know what? I've also never seen Bill Clinton drive. I've seen him ride a bicycle before, but I've never seen him drive a car. Hillary doesn't drive. She has a driver, but I could see her driving a car. I could see her driving anything. I think she kind of has that energy. A Fisher Price car, a Maybach. Yeah, he'd have to have like it couldn't be a small car. It'd have to be like a big car. Like, would he drive a pickup truck for like the look? Maybe. Something super gaudy. Yeah, what would it be? What would Trump drive? This is a fun thing to think about. I never thought of that. I never thought of that. You know what's so funny? When I meet like famous people, people will ask like, what do they smell like? And so I assume that people ask what I smell like. And so I went and got like different colognes for different occasions, so that if somebody ever asks what I smell like, they'll be like, oh, like minerals, like eucalyptus, like calm. Lincoln Town Car, patchouli. Yeah, I don't smell like patchouli. I smell like, so I bought this one called Sauvage or something, and then I found out like Johnny Depp endorses it, but I was like, well, it smells really good. It's like a vanilla musk kind of. Only wear that one when I'm out with my wife because it's very sexy. But most of the times during the day, I wear like Bath and Body Works Splash because again, millennial, and I never got over it, and it's delightful. And it's like called Surf and Bamboo. It just smells like fresh, kind of like linen. All right, let's talk about uh, The Blind Side. What do you guys think of The Blind Side stuff? Because I have some tea on this as well. That Michael Orr was not adopted by the Toohey family, that movie The Blind Side was all bullshit, and that in fact he was tricked into a conservatorship that he to this day, as a 37-year-old man, is in. You saw that, Brittany? Yeah. So I went to college with a girl who was like Liz from Memphis, Tennessee, and was from like big money, and she had talked about knowing them. And at the time, I thought it was weird. At the time, it seemed very like white savior story at a minimum, right? This idea that like that this family like took in this kid, and it was very white savior story in the first place. I'm very interested to see what Sandra Bullock thinks about this, given that Sandra Bullock has two adopted black children. And she portrayed the legacy of what at the time she had to believe was a true story. And I love Sandra Bullock. I don't think Sandy does very much wrong. I think she's a lovely person with a good heart, at least like as far as celebrities go. I don't know her. She could be terrible. But I don't think she's terrible. But I will be interested to see how she responds to this because it really puts her in a tight spot. She's, she was such a big part of that. And she's such a like responsible actress. So we'll see what happens with that because she has two black adopted children. I don't blame her. I'm just very interested to hear what her take is, how she's feeling about it, as she is very wrapped up in this and she is the representation of Leanne Toohey. I think the conservatorship thing is tricky, and I definitely, okay, because we're just squirrel friends talking about stuff here. I do wonder if the way that the family is acting, and this is entirely my opinion, the Toohey family is acting, is they're acting a little bit like they got caught. They're acting a little bit like surprised, but they have an answer for everything, and that sort of makes alarm bells goes off in my head. Like if you saw the Sun, SJ or whatever, was on a couple of the news programs today, and he was like, we're just really hurt, and I always thought of him as my brother, and we're really hurt. And I'm like, ooh, they're shifting who the victim is here, and that's not cool. And I don't know, just the way he was talking, he was like, no, and of course he's my brother, and of course he was adopted by us, and of course he was this, that, the other. And I'm like, but he wasn't. It seems very fishy to me. And the other thing that I think is weird is the father was like, we didn't make any money off that movie. And do you think I needed to make money off that movie? I run 40 successful KFC restaurants. We have more money than we would have ever made off that money. We got plenty of money. I provide for my family type thing. And I'm like, okay, the lady doth protest too much. And then in the next breath says, well, actually, when I say we made no money, I mean each member of the family made like $14,000 from the movie. But they negate the fact that they made a foundation using the Blind Side story. Leanne is a speaker. She's on the speaker circuit using the Blind Side story. You've made your public persona rose exponentially. You had access to more money and resources. You're known, and all that was because of that story. So you can't really say I didn't make any money on the story when you did, and then be like, yeah, well, okay, the money I made on the story is nothing compared to the money I made owning KFC restaurants. And I'm like, nobody asked about your KFC restaurants, Tim McGraw. You know why I didn't say I wonder what Tim McGraw thinks? Because I didn't think of Tim McGraw at all. I never thought of the father in the show. I think it's because they keep showing, like, And I think Sandra Bullock's a wonderful person, and I have not one bad thing to say. And I can't believe I will not live in a world in which she believed that she's part of the con. She's not part of the con. She's a very ethical actor. And at the time, everybody was telling that story. If we go back to 2009 and 2004, everybody was telling that story. So, including Michael. So that was the story that was true as they knew it then. But I totally forgot Tim McGraw played the dad. I never think about the male characters. Like, very rarely. Uh, yeah, they're both ethical. They were telling the story as they knew it, as it was true at that time. So interesting, though. And what I love that Michael Orr said as well is like, yes, he played football, but that he wasn't developmentally delayed. They portrayed him as being stupid. Why did they do that? Like the inherent bias and racism that's built into that film was always uncomfortable because it was like, what if he was super smart? Then what? He would have been challenging or something. Like it wouldn't have been as like beloved and um, he would. I don't know, but I'm glad that Michael's getting to tell his story now. He was a Baltimore Raven. I used to live in Baltimore. He plays a hell of a game. He's retired since, and he just kind of wants to seemingly like own his own life and his own name. She's the better perfect victim. Yeah, yeah. And ableism. Mm-hmm. Crutches and Spice was talking about this earlier, about like the ableism that's built into The Blind Side and how it like intersects with racism and she had some really interesting points today. I do hope there's so many times that people sign away their life. There's this example of a chef that I used to know, Chloe, and she was a vegetarian chef and she was really, really good. And then they wanted to franchise these restaurants to do fast casual called By Chloe. They were all over LA and New York and everywhere. A huge brand, By Chloe. And eventually, at some point, the company decided they didn't want to give her any money anymore for her recipes and her name because the brand had sort of built outside of her as the face. And they took her name. She couldn't even use her own name, Chloe, on her own restaurant because of the way that that deal shook out. So you got to be really careful, especially content creators, chefs, people who aren't used to like needing a lawyer for stuff. It just feels like such a great opportunity and everything's so happy in the beginning. Like protecting your likeness is probably the most important thing that you can do. One of the first things I did was get Under the Desk trademarked. So I have the trademark for Under the Desk News, but I didn't buy the domain because I didn't have the money at the time to buy the domain, and somebody bought it and they've been maliciously parking it. And so now I had to get a lawyer because I have the trademark. GoDaddy like can force them to give it to me, but they can't force them to give it to me in a timely manner. So it's like so annoying, but people are malicious, man. And they said to Lauren, to my little booking agent friend, like helper manager person, they were like, yeah, we bought this like when Under the Desk was new, knowing that it would have value. And she's like, you're so shitty. That's so shitty. Like, why would you do that? You know? Secret Service must have watched him load all the boxes of classified documents is right. This is what I think they're doing. I think that they're going to use the Trump trial as the precedent for getting anybody else in a high profile situation. Secret Service, members of Congress, electors, delegates, members of the Republican National Party. They're going to start at the top, like the way they prosecute mobs, which is so funny because like Rudy Giuliani is like known as the guy who took down the mob in New York City using RICO, and now he's facing RICO. And yeah, so I think they're going to try Trump all the way through, get what they believe will be a solid conviction, and then use that conviction to sort of take down the rest of the pins, would be my idea. The reason why they didn't start with a smaller fish like Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, is because whatever happens in her trial could have been used by Trump's defense to better defend him. So they're going to start with Trump, and then they'll take out smaller people afterwards. This is the way I think it's going to go. This other thing I think is super interesting is Michael Burry, who, if you've ever seen the movie The Big Short, about how This guy predicted the collapse of the housing market in 2008. So Michael Burry, that movie is based on him, and he has just bet more than $1.6 billion on there being a Wall Street crash. And so many people are freaking out about this. And I'm like, let's think critically for just a second about what the motivations of Michael Burry are right now and what benefit it would be if people started pulling their money out of the stock market that he has stacked his bet against. Like, he's gaslighting you. Don't do that. But, you know, people are going to act how they're going to act. But that's my take on Michael Burry. He's like a pickup artist, you know? You got to, like, know that they're playing a game. It's the reason why they're trying all 18 in Georgia together. One conviction doesn't fly, none do. No. If the reason why they're trying them all together is because, okay, so the first 3 indictments were on Trump personally or Giuliani personally. They were separate individual charges. The reason why Georgia is together is because they wanted to do RICO charges, which is racketeering and criminal enterprise. So Georgia needs to prove that it's not just Trump that was doing election interference and like federal issues, but rather that Trump is the mob boss of the criminal enterprise that seeked to engage in wire fraud, in money laundering, in election interference, in obstruction of official proceedings. So Georgia's is different because in the other states and in the federal cases, they're targeting him one for seditious behavior, right? You know, different parts of it. In Georgia, they're calling him a Don. They're calling him a mob boss. And they're saying that he is the spear point of this whole criminal organization, which is why 19 people are named in the organization, or 18 people are named in the organization plus him, because they need to show this was a big crime family that he was overseeing. And that's why Georgia's doing it that way. As far as keeping it bipartisan and neutral, there is no such thing. There is right and wrong. And right now, the only thing you do bipartisan is to say, I am basing every single thing on facts I can back up. Here is the day he did this. Here is the day he did that. This is not a political lawsuit. He broke the law. And so now he's being charged, and he'll get a trial just like everyone else does to try and prove he's not. Stephen Miller never been caught at something. There are some people within the group that are better than others. If you want to know who my opinion of the guiding force behind the Tea Party and the Republicans and even the Trump movement is, it's Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, going back to 2012, has always wanted to be the special boy, and he never will be. But he's very good at being the puppet master behind the scenes, and he's very good at like putting a little idea in someone's head and pushing them out there. Ted Cruz is one of the most talented constitutional lawyers of our generation. It doesn't mean he's a good person, but he knows the ropes and he knows the laws, and he's very good at sort of like setting little puppets into motion without them feeling like puppets. And the same is true for folks like Stephen Miller or even Mnuchin. We'll see them potentially face charges down the line, but right now they're not part of the outward, easy to hit crime family. They're their own kind of situation. But Ted Cruz has and continues to be, I think, one of the most dangerous Republicans when it comes to who's guiding the party. It's Ted Cruz, to me, more than Trump, more than anyone else. I mean, Trump is the showman, but Cruz is the producer, if that makes sense. To me, that's the way that I've seen it for the last decade or so. And that's why you don't see Ted Cruz jumping out right now, as he has every presidential election for the last 4 or 5 of them, to say he's going to run for president because he knows he has more power where he is now. It's like a Steve Bannon move, where it's like he has more power behind the scenes than he does when he tries to be the special boy out front. Vivek Ramaswamy is a great example of one of these people that could be put out there to agitate and to get folks worked up and to lend credibility even to certain candidates. Ramaswamy knows he's not going to be president this year, but he knows that he is great at getting an audience. He is great at reinforcing the party line and messaging. He is young, so he does attract the youth. He's extremely successful and educated, so they think that he could be like the Elon Musk of politics. Um, and for my money, Ramaswamy is the best the Republicans have. He's the best orator. He is the most intelligent. His policies are brutal, and I don't agree with a thing the man says. But he is a talented orator, and he also, just like Ted Cruz, really knows the laws inside and out, and he knows how to, manipulate them to the way that he wants. But Ramaswamy is, people are worried about, I'm never worried about DeSantis. I'm never worried about Asa Hutchinson. I'm never worried about any of those guys, really. Ted Cruz and Ron Swamy, I think, are the two most talented men in the Republican Party right now when it comes to intelligence and oration. Oh, yeah, RFK Jr. is a Republican patsy. I think he's another one. Here's the thing, sort of, he's a useful tool because this is politics, right? So let's take the persons out of it and just talk about tools that we use. RFK is a useful tool because he ran as a Democrat. The Kennedy name is associated with democracy and Democrats. They've like co-opted JFK Jr. for the conspiracy theorists, so they think they're going to pull votes in that way. This isn't 10 years ago, though, and RFK Jr. was never going to take a single vote from the Democrats, which is why they're sort of abandoning him a little bit because he is no longer a super useful tool. They can put him out there and they could try to shake it up a little bit, but he's not converting voters. So he's not as useful as they thought. Marianne Williamson, I don't think it has anything to do with the Republican Party, but it is another political agitator. Marianne Williamson probably knows in her heart of hearts she's not going to be president this round. She may not even wish to actually authentically be president. I can't speak for her. I don't know. Maybe she really does. But she is another one who is excellent at getting her message out there, at meeting folks where they're at in zones where they're not typically used to being met. She's put more money into TikTok than anyone else that I've seen. And she thinks that that might be enough, but it really is about getting platform, and she's done that well on the social platforms. They're throwing noodles at the wall. Yeah. You know what I don't understand? Why are we going to have DeSantis and Newsom debate? Why would we do that? Why would we do that? I mean, I would watch it. I guess that's why we would do it. But I don't see what Gavin Newsom has to gain from debating somebody who doesn't fight fair. And I don't see what Ron DeSantis has to gain by debating somebody who's not a presidential candidate. I don't see a point in that. It's just like, oh, our two Gen X guys from sunny states want to talk to each other? It doesn't make any sense. Oh my God, the Zuck Musk cage match. So last night, Mark Zuckerberg has trained with MMA fighters, and like I guess he's really into jiu-jitsu for his whole life. And he was dead serious about it because he knew he would win because he's been training his whole life. This is his like super nerd hobby. And he said that he's got to move on from this because Musk is a deeply unserious person who doesn't train, and Mark's not going to get in there and like have this be stupid. So he said he's done with it. Musk refused to practice, refused to spar, refused anything. So he's like, he's deeply unserious, and it's not worth it for me to waste my time on this. I do sort of hope, I'd love to see Mark and Logan Paul go at it. Why not? I think that'd be cool. Because, like, Logan Paul put the effort into learning how to fight, you know? Ow. Oh. No bad publicity, yeah. What other questions do you guys have? We have about 15 more minutes. And then I'm going to go put another heating pad on and try to make my neck relax. Googling Logan Paul. Oh my God, I love it. I wish I could do it where, like, maybe next time we'll do a Zoom instead, until we get to where, like, it's too big for Zoom, and then we'll come back to YouTube, because I would love it if I could see you guys too, and if we could talk back and forth. I think it would be more fun. So I'm going to ask, we'll talk to Lauren and Shan about that if we could do a Zoom instead. Would you guys do Zoom? Because like I want to be able to talk to you and like have other people talk and not just me talk. Yeah, Jackie, Zoom. I think until we get to like 100 people, because we're trying to keep these small. If we do Zoom, then we can all like chat and hang out. And like even if I had to leave after a certain amount of time, like y'all could stay and chat and hang out. And I think that'd be really cool. All right. Yeah, not cool privacy issues. I know, but if only we have the link. I'm not going to put it, it would only be in the Patreon. So it would be a secret link to the Zoom. And it would only be for Patreon members. I feel like it'd be worth a try, right? We could give it a try. Shannon's upside down. We'll see if Shannon wants to do a Zoom. I think that'd be fun. It's worth a shot. You know what I mean? If people behave badly, I'll just click off it and shut it down. But I don't think they will. It's just like us. It's just bunnies having a good time, hanging out, talking about what we think. Oh, here's the last thing on the Trump stuff that you wanted to. Please, Shannon. Everyone's saying. The other thing you're going to want to know about the Trump stuff this week, I do think they're going to give him the perp walk. I think this is the time. I think Georgia's a little less merciful. Maybe a Google Meet. Sure, something like that. Something where you can talk to, though, is what I want to do. Um, so Mark Meadows, who was Trump's chief of staff, tweeted and texted and tweeted the text that they had 100 Congress people and enough senators to not certify the election, which is so bad for him in this situation. You know what I mean? It's so bad. Um, and now he's trying to get the case that's filed against him in Georgia moved to a federal court because he thinks if he can get the case moved from state to federal, he'll be able to claim federal immunity because he was not acting as Mark Meadows. He was acting as Trump's chief of staff, and thereby it cannot be held responsible for what he said. I mean, the man is crazy. Like, that's not going to fly, but I think that's very interesting. And Lisa, I want to talk to you about DeSantis. So my mom is my barometer for what's happening in Florida, News by the Grotto. And so this is what she told me about DeSantis the other day. She was like, who's that guy who got yelled at by those women in Iowa? I'm like, Ron DeSantis. And she's like, his children were so scared when the people were yelling. And I'm like, well, Ma, they got a lot to yell at. And she was like, no. I don't think that the people yelling at him were wrong. I think he's a bad father. And I was like, what? And she's like, I wouldn't vote for him because I think he's a bad father. And I think that that will tell you how he would treat, other people. His children are so scared, and he's like bringing them to these rallies, and all the people are upset with him, and it's very dangerous. And he's got his wife there, and like she's not helping the children. And I'm not going to I wouldn't vote for him. I don't think he's a good dad. So, I mean, hopefully other people maybe have that thought. I was like, Mom, you know what? Maybe you're on something. She's like, as a woman, I wouldn't trust him. And I'm like, that's good. That's good. She doesn't even know about his policies. She was just asking me about him as it related to like why he was bringing his children all around and stuff. And she's like, you can see they're like crying. And like, I would never, ever vote for somebody like that. And I'm like, hopefully other people feel the same, Ma. How does she feel about the alimony issue? My parents got married when they were like 17 and they're still together and they're the most undyingly in love with each other, obsessed soulmates that have ever existed. So I don't know that she's thought about alimony at all. I'm sure her other friends down in Florida have thoughts about it. I think if you want to say from today forward, there's no such thing as permanent alimony, then that could be something that folks could consider when they're deciding to make the contract of marriage. But I think for anybody who's already in a marriage, that stipulation of permanent alimony was like an assumed benefit of the transaction of marriage, and they shouldn't be able to change that now, I think. But I think if Florida wants to say, hey, anybody who gets married after January 1st, 2024 no longer will automatically qualify for permanent alimony as part of the marital contract in the state, I think that's fine. But I think anybody who's in it already should get to keep it. Permanent alimony was set up to really honestly stop people from leaving their wives in many cases. There needed to be a consequence for divorce, and that is part religious, part part governmental. And that was the trade off for men being prioritized in the workforce. The idea that like a man's salary was to care for him, his wife, and children. And so, if that's the promise that the government and corporate America was making at the time, and the woman's job was to stay home to support that man's career, then he doesn't just get off the hook at the end of it because she fulfilled her commitment to the life. And so I get where permanent alimony came from. I think in today's day and age, with everybody having to work, mostly it's not as popular as it once was as a benefit, but I think it's what prenups are for in some ways, but yeah. I know lots of people who are going to suffer. There are lots of people in Florida right now who based the apartment that they rent, their health insurance, all kinds of things off of the permanent alimony that they were owed for their years of service. It's like a pension, kind of, I guess. You could think of it that way. And that now that they won't get it, and they're not in a place where they can retrain or potentially go back to work, that's unfair to the contract they made and fulfilled when they got married all those years ago. Military spouses will feel a domino effect, probably. The military spouse thing we're trying to make better. We've been trying to make the military spouse life better for a long time. Remote work certainly helps because now male spouses can in some cases work. A lot of people who even offer remote work don't want to hire military spouses because they have a misconception that they'll be too busy or that they won't be focused enough or that they have too much other responsibility, and that like sucks. But we're trying to make military spouse life better. The way we could make on-base life better is to add competition. Right now, there's like one guy who has the commissary contract, and they get to keep it for like 10 years. And so then what does that do when there's no competition? They have shit produce and they drive up the cost of it. It's like $5 for an orange on base. And that's if you can get it. And as far as like home delivery kits, they don't let you have them on base. At least they didn't in Maryland when I was dealing with it. Because they're like, oh, it's a security risk to bring like delivered food in and stuff, and you have to get it from the gate, and it sucks. And like, they do make life on base a little bit too hard, but they're trying to make it better because it affects military readiness, and we're really down on retention rates, which is like people re-upping. So there's more of a push than ever to make family life, military family life, not suck. Oh, what am I doing with JCOC? Okay, so I got asked, you're currently, and a lot of the spouses are stressed. Yeah, it's hard because it's like, also, if the government does like a shutdown, it sucks because sometimes your paycheck comes late and like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, it just sucks. So here is what's happening. So there's this program called the Joint Civilian Observation Conference, which is the most prestigious civilian event or conference you can go to with the military. And I'm embedding with the military from September 17th to the 23rd. So I report to the Pentagon, and then I can't like say everything that I'm doing, but I do one day with the Marines, one day with the Navy SEALs, one day with the Coast Guard, one with the Air Force, one day with Space Force, and they're like 10 to 14-hour days, and you go through essentially crash course training on what they do, why they do it. You get like an update on like the status of that branch. You engage in some, like when you do Army Day, you get to like you get to do field training, which is dope because you get to like blow stuff up. So that'll be fun. And then learn about new equipment that's coming out, strategies, recruitment stuff. And it's a full week of training on essentially the military standing. And it's super hard to get into this thing. And I had to prove that I could run a mile, climb eight flights of stairs. You're only allowed to bring a backpack with you. You move constantly. And it's basically like 14-hour day sleep, 14-hour day sleep for a full week, which I'm used to and I can do. And the part that I'm really excited about is a while ago I got asked to go to Ukraine. And I said no because I was too scared. And I don't have the training to do like conflict zone reporting. And I will after this. So I'm not saying I'm going to Ukraine, but after this, I'll have conflict zone reporting ability to know, like, if this happens, you do this. If that happens, you do this. So this is the first part of getting ready to do stuff like that. And I'm really excited about it. I told when they wanted me to come to Ukraine, I was like, I will go to Poland. And they were like, to the border. And I'm like, to Warsaw? And they were like, no. And then they asked why. And I said, I just don't feel trained. I don't feel ready. And they were like, okay, well, we can help you fix that. Like, there are things that you can do. And I tried last year, I tried to get in JCOC. I didn't qualify. And this year I did qualify. And you have to have like a certain amount of like enlisted high ranking officers that'll like vouch for you and say like, this is a worthy use of DoD resources to train this person. So I don't want to let those folks down, but I will be completely off for a week. Me and Shannon are trying to figure out what we're going to do for content. I might just be off. Sometimes when I put other people on the show, people don't like it as much and I won't be able to control it. So I might just say like, for this week I'm off and like the dust bunnies will know where I am. And when I come back, I'll be able to tell y'all, you know, what I learned and everything, but it's a huge deal and I'm really excited about it. But you have to do, I know I have to like prove that I could attend or witness a military, medic stuff. So, you know, like that you're not going to like barf if you're like over there and something happens. You can handle explosives, all that kind of stuff. So we've been training for that to like mentally be ready. It's only 1 week, so it's going to be okay. But I know one part of it when you do this the day with the SEALs. I know you do the SEALs morning exercises, and I am not fucking ready for that. I'll tell you, there's no amount of training I could possibly do to be ready for that. Where you like are in the water kicking your feet. If you've ever watched them do that, and you lift the boats. So I will be the one to carry the boat, whatever that means. I see a lot of guys. Do you guys know what carry the boats means? Maybe Shannon knows. She's like pop culture-y. Oh, what was Kelly's question? Let's see. Kelly had a good question. Kelly S. If DeSantis is removing DAs without real repercussions, is there anything keeping Georgia's governor from doing the same? Georgia's governor will not be removing Fani Willis. He supports the investigation and always has. Governor Kemp, while a Republican, is ardently anti-Trump after everything that happened, and he will not replace Fani Willis. He's supported this investigation and this prosecution, and he wants Georgia to be on the map as like doing things so strictly by the book, and that that it's a state you can trust and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not worried about that. And DeSantis removing people, I mean, sometimes I'm like, God, the fascism's bad. It's bad. It's bad. But there needs to be some repercussions. Like even DeSantis changing Florida law so he could remain the governor while he campaigned for president sucks. Like that shouldn't be happening. State of Florida needs a governor who's like 10 toes down for Florida. There's so much going on there with the hurricanes and just like so many issues day to day that need full-time attention. And if you're campaigning for president, that's what you're doing full-time, pretty much. Unless you're the incumbent. And Biden has less to do as far as like campaign trail goes, but it's still a lot. Oh God, who's going to carry the boats is David Goggins, the Navy SEAL. That makes sense. I'm going to carry the boats because that's part of the day. You like go in the water while the waves are crashing on your face. And you like kick your little feet and do sit-ups, and then you run onto the thing and you like lift the boats, and you have to run a mile with these boats like on your team, and then you get back in the water. They're going to video a lot of this, so wish me and my asthma luck. It's incredible. It's truly it will be one of the greatest things I ever do. It's super unusual to get to do it, and I'm really excited about it. And I worked really hard to get it. So hopefully, and most of it is because I'm like, I want people to know what this is. Like they've sent Anderson Cooper there before. They've sent big name journalists there before. Have you ever heard of JCOC? Probably not. Yeah, maybe I can share on Discord. That's a good idea. I probably will. They give me my phone back at 9:30 at night, so I'll be able to like kind of chat for a little bit before the next day. I'll tell you guys what's going on. Do y'all have any more questions? If not, I might jump off here and catch up on The Bachelorette. What do you guys think of Charity? I don't know if I love The Bachelor anymore. I still watch it. I think it's just like a habit. It's like, what else are you gonna do on Monday night? Be waiting on the beach with a six pack? I appreciate that. That's much better. And then I go right from JCOC. Then it's my niece's birthday in Connecticut on the 24th, so I'm going right to that. And then I go to VidCon, which is another 14-hour days. It'll be wild. You paused Below Deck Med for this. Thank you. Thanks, Kiki. Well, let's go watch our shows. I'm gonna guess that Trump's real height is 6'2" and he's 300 pounds, maybe. I don't know. He's a big dude. I don't actually know how much weight is of people. Like I could never look at somebody and be like, oh, they weigh that. I have no idea. I have no idea how much people weigh. Very different 14-hour days. They are. I actually think in some ways the military ones might be easier. VidCon is hard. It's so fun because you get to see so many people, but trying to keep like all my keynotes and stuff straight and all my like talking parts straight is hard. Kiki. I know. Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. And I'm so glad that y'all were here. I appreciate the dust bunnies. Next one will be, we'll do more of these, but the next definite one is going to be September 15th. So it's right before I leave for Army, as I'm calling it. And we'll see if we can do it as a Zoom so that we can talk back and forth. Because I think that'll be a little bit more fun to be able to get to chat with y'all. But thanks for being here. Thanks, Shan, for moderating. And we will see you later. Thanks, Beth. Okay. Bye, everyone.